I'm going to show you how to calculate the historical returns for a US listed stock based on publicly available information. And this uh, ability to calculate the historical returns is quite useful because often you'll find on websites claiming that uh, if you invested, say, I don't know, $100 in a certain stock at the IPO date, the first date of the IPO, and you held up until now, then you would have how much money right now. And instead of just accepting what these websites claim, what you can do is actually find the actual data for historical prices yourself, and then do the calculation yourself to work out whether the returns that are claimed on the website are they accurate or not. So what you need to do is, well, you need first a web browser, internet connection, and then a calculator. So the first thing you need to do is, in our example, we're going to say the investor buys Netflix stocks, and let's say uses $100 to buy Netflix when it IPO'd on the first day, and we're going to say he paid the closing price of that day and held it all these years up until the present day and sells it at the closing price today. So you do a quick search for Netflix IPO date, and then you see the IPO date was May the 23rd, 2002. So you can write that down. You need to remember that date. Next, go to Yahoo Finance, and then search for Netflix, NFLX, using the stock code. And then you'll get this opening page, which shows the current price of 510.40. And you can't just multiply, well, actually, I'll explain what you need to do next. This shows the opening price, the closing price on the most recent date, which is the 8th of January 2021. So you can write that down. $510.40 would buy you one share of Netflix today. Now, the first thing we need to do is to find out the historical price of Netflix, the closing price on May the 23rd, 2002. So you click on this historical data tab, and then you make sure that the time period is max. And then what you would do is to go to historical prices. Now, before we actually do that, there are two things you have to check, because there are two things that can affect the return on a stock investment, and the first is dividends. So you first check whether Netflix issued any dividends, and in fact they didn't. No dividends. Okay, so that makes the calculation easier. Next, you check for stock splits. So you find here it tells you that there have been two stock splits, and the dates of the splits are also important. So one was in 2004 and the other was in 2015. And in our example, the investor held the stock from 2002. He bought in 2002 and held up until 2021. So in our example, he would have benefited from both stock splits. All right, and the two stock splits means that one stock purchased in 2002 would be multiplied by 14 to 14 stocks. Okay, now the next thing that you have to check is the historical price, because you have to find out how many Netflix stocks $100 would have bought you. And what you do is go to historical prices. And I've opened up this other page because to make things quicker. So the historical price on the first day of the IPO of Netflix, May 23rd, 2002. And remember, we assume that he pays the closing price. Now, here you see there are two closing prices, a close and then adjusted closing. They're both actually adjusted. The first closing price with one asterisk, it explains, is the close price adjusted for splits. While the second one, this column here, adjusted closing, is adjusted closing price adjusted for both dividends and splits. But we've just checked and Netflix has no dividends, and so both these columns are exactly the same numbers. And you can see here $1.20. But as I explained before, there were actually two splits, a 2-for-1 in 2004 and then a 7-for-1 in 2015. And so this $1.20 price is adjusted. That means when Netflix IPO'd on this day, the closing price was not, in fact, $1.20. This price has been adjusted. The actual price is multiplied by 14. So $1.20, and then you multiply by 14, and you get $16.80. So according to this data and this calculation, the closing price, the actual closing price, historical closing price, which is unadjusted for stock splits, on 23rd of May 2002 was $16.80. So that's the price we look at. That is the actual price. You do not use this adjusted stock split price. So we said that the investor used $100. So you take $100 and you divide by $16.80. Sorry, $100 divided by $16.80. And then you get this number, 5.95. Okay. Just to simplify this example, we're going to assume that back in 2002, you could buy partial stocks, which may not be true, but I just assume it so that we can make this example simpler, and we can actually calculate the return for exactly $100. So we're going to assume that you really could buy 5.95 shares, which probably is not true. Okay. So that's how many shares $100 would have bought exactly back on the first day of the IPO. 5.952 whatever shares. Now, the next thing you have to do is to work out how many shares this 5.95 shares would have turned into today. So we already said that there were two stock splits. There was a 2-for-1 and a 7-for-1. So you take the the 5.95 shares and then you multiply by 14. And so you get 83.33 shares. So that's how many shares you would have today. And then to calculate how much these shares would have been worth, these 83.33 Netflix shares, then you go back to the current price, the latest closing price. The latest closing price is $510.40. So you multiply these 83.33 shares by $510.40. And then you get this number. I'll just show the thousand separators. $42,533.33. So in other words, if you use $100 and invested in Netflix on the first day of the IPO at the closing price, and you held it up until now, January the 8th, 2021, those shares would have multiplied to 83.33 shares, and they would be worth $42,533.33. And the return would be, let's see, total return. So that you take this 42,533 divided by $100, and you get 425.33. So it's a return of 425x. You've multiplied your $100 by 425 times over the span of from 2002 up to 2021. So that is a return, or you want to make it into percent, you multiply by 100. So that's a total return of 42,533%. So that's one way that you can calculate the total return for his total historical return for Netflix based on the assumption of buying 100 shares on the first day of the IPO and holding it up until the present day, January the 8th, 2021. So I hope this has helped you, and if you have any comments, please comment below, and if you liked it, please click the like button. Thank you.